Let's talk about the many books I read this month. I read three, okay, six. I read six books this month and DNF'd one. So I got halfway through one book and then finished six others. So that's pretty good for me. That's a pretty solid month. And they weren't all manga either. So I think that counts for something. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. I got that one from the library, so I don't actually have it. That one is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a story about an assistant to an investigator who ends up solving murders, basically, the two of them together. But the investigator is kind of agoraphobic, kind of like that, or is very autistic coded at the very least. And so the assistant is the one that goes out and does all the interviews and things like that. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I thought the concept was really interesting. Murder is something unusual, like the guy has a tree grow from him. And so there's kind of this mystery of how that happened, who did it, was it an infection, was it even a murder to begin with? And I thought it was really interesting, but at the same time, I found it a little hard to get through, which I think is kind of a hot take because I think people really like this book. But maybe mysteries just aren't for me because I always just want to know who did it. And I don't really care for finding out. And I thought it was a little anticlimactic, the end. I thought everything kind of came down. You're following the assistant the whole time, but he's not the one that like comes to any conclusions or anything like that. And I was kind of hoping he would be the one to figure things out. But he kind of just brings things to the investigator and she kind of figures things out for him. So, yeah, I overall gave it 3 stars. Next book I read was Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is a Regency. The cat is just climbing over all of my things over there. Hey, stop that. Cat intermission. You hear her meowing? She's just losing it for no reason. This is a Regency era romance, and cat's just walking around. And this takes place, this is about a girl named Dora who has had half of her soul taken by a fairy when she was a child. And so she has a hard time feeling emotions, understanding other people's emotions. She kind of has no hope for a husband just because of how she is. And she has like one gray eye because half of her soul is missing. And so it's this family secret that they're trying to keep from everybody until she meets this magician. So it's really interesting because she has this hard time with feelings, but around this guy, she ends up feeling things that she's never felt before. It's very cute. It's very cheesy. And I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. I actually really like this book. I'm not much of a romance girl, but I thought this was really fun and really sweet. And they were both so cute. And even if you get sick of kind of the Regency romance type of thing, it kind of takes a little bit of a tonal shift towards about the last third of the book. And it makes the book even more interesting and a lot more fun. And it just was so good. I enjoyed it so much. Maybe I am a romance person. Maybe I just need to find the right ones. Okay, the next book that I read, I finally got around to it. I started it in like February, but I finished Water Moon. This book is a story about a girl who runs a pawn shop where you can pawn your life choices. And she's taking over it from her father, and it's her first day on the job, basically, and her place has been ransacked and her father is missing. And then this random guy just walks into the shop and is like, well, I'll help you find him. I think it's really funny because this guy is so ride or die. He just kind of instantly falls in love with her. I don't know if he just thinks she's really hot. This book is really creative because when you're in the pawn shop, it's actually a part of another world that the guy has no idea was even a thing. And she kind of leads him through all of these different places in this other world. And it's really fascinating. It's really a lot of fun. It's very creative. There's like a market in the sky and they like travel via rumor. like flying on a rumor, and like it's really interesting. It was a little too fast paced for me just because I wish we had stayed in some of these places a little bit longer. But the ending also fell kind of flat for me. Like the plot twists, I wasn't really a big fan of. I think it could have been just. I think it made it a little bit more complicated than it needed to be, and so I ended up giving this 3 stars. Except the cover, I give 5. It's so pretty. Okay, the next book I read was Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. And this is a story about 3 siblings whose father has just passed away, and he owns this multi-million-dollar company, and they don't know who he's going to leave it to because he was relatively healthy when he died, and so they didn't know what his will said. They didn't even know if he had a will, just because it was so sudden. This story takes place over a couple of days in between them finding out he passed away and them finding out who takes over the company. And they are each kind of struggling with formally being really gifted and talented, being gifted children, basically being prodigies. One of them was a ballerina prodigy. Another built a company when she was in her 20s that's now used worldwide. And another is one of the young, or I think he might be the youngest senator ever sworn in or something like that. He's one of the youngest. And so they deal with this idea of being gifted burnout kids, basically, because they're all either in their 30s or in their 20s and their lives are kind of falling apart now. And so it deals a lot with what it's like to be gifted and then to lose that. And I really like this book. This is a 5-star book for me, which I thought was really surprising. I did have some issues with it, but at the end of the day, I was just like, nah, it's 5 stars. I loved it. This is actually the second 5-star book that I've given this year. So I was pretty excited to find this one. And I just love how the sibling dynamic was and how they kind of grow closer over the next couple of days and how they kind of hate each other in the way that siblings do. And I like any conversation about somebody who's formally gifted and kind of their life starts falling apart, because I had the issue where I got straight A's in school and was told I was gifted, basically, and like then I got into college and got straight A's. Then I got out of college and I'm like, now what do I do? There's no structure to my life. And it's a little different for these 3 because they're a little bit older when they kind of lose that, what made them gifted. Like one of them thinks he's not going to get reelected. The other one got injured and is no longer can be a ballerina. And the other one ended up falsifying her research in order to get her her app funded. And so they are kind of, I mean, the one does it to herself. She was gifted and smart and then was so afraid of failure that she ended up falsifying things and ended up doing something really horrible. And with her, like it's a little hard to feel sympathy for any of these characters because the god of this world, as they call themselves, is the narrator and calls them either assholes or idiots. And it's just really interesting. There's also a subplot of polyamory, which I thought was really interesting because you don't really see that a lot in books, unless I'm just not reading the right books. And it kind of takes polyamory in this like positive light, which I thought was really cute and sweet. So apart from that, I think this book may have been a little long, but I enjoyed it so much that I really didn't mind how long it was. I would be okay with just learning about these shenanigans from these siblings and them fucking up their lives. Next book I read was Solomon. This book is about a girl who is fresh out of college and she is in kind of a dead-end job that she doesn't love. She doesn't even like it. And she's living with a boyfriend who can't pay rent because he's only working part-time. And she is kind of floundering a little bit. She doesn't know what to do with her life. Her boyfriend is trying to become a musician, but it's not really working out the way he wanted it to. And so she ends up quitting her job and kind of just floundering even more and trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life apart from just sitting at home and doing nothing. And I found this really relatable. This, just like the other book, that I think that this feeling of not knowing what you're going to do and not being able to stand what life you're living. And so you have to quit your job, even though there's no place to land. You don't have the money to do it. Can I help you with something, Rosalind? I think that's really relatable. I think a lot of people stay in dead-end jobs because they can't afford to leave them. And I've done that in the past, and I've done the opposite where I've quit with no prospects and nowhere to go and no money. And you just kind of, I think at the end of the day, this book was really sad. It was really depressing because something happens in the middle of the book that kind of takes a turn. And so it turns into something completely different. At the end of the day, I think it was a little redundant. I think a lot of the struggles that they face, like everybody was facing them. And I think that's common for people who just get out of college. But I guess I wanted a little bit differentiating between all of the characters. And so I ended up giving this 3 stars. I thought it was okay. Yeah. Okay. We gotta talk about this book. I don't want to talk about this book. This is The Grace Year. This book I got a little over halfway through, and then I decided to soft DNF it. I think I'll probably go back to it just to finish it and to see if it takes a turn for the better, because I didn't hate this book, but it was not what I was expecting, and I don't think it was what it was marketed as either. This was marketed as kind of like well, let me tell you what it's about first. This book is about a dystopian society where women are seen as lesser than, and I mean, that happens in this society too, but this is a more extreme version of that. And they are, when they turn 16, all the 16-year-olds are sent off into the woods to get rid of their magic. And they're sent out there for a year, and then only some of them end up coming back. And I thought it was a really interesting concept. I found this on TikTok, and somebody said it was like Yellow Jackets. And I love Yellow Jackets, so I was really excited about this book. But the thing is that the main character, Tierney, spends most of her time alone. Like, I was thinking this was going to be a book about these girls kind of slowly going into madness or losing their magic, or there should be more feminist themes in this, like trying to discover who they really are out in the wilderness or becoming monsters, one or the other. But then she finds a man in the wilderness, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you want a man in my feminist book? No, thank you. If she's going to be in any relationship, it should be sapphic. And there's none of that in here. I mean, I don't know if there is later, but it was a hinting at a romance. And I was like, excuse me, you want a straight romance in my gay woods book? Like, this could have been so sapphic. And that was just a missed opportunity. And so I really wanted to see the dynamic between all of the girls, because they have things like a punishment tree that, like, they would sever fingers and stuff like that, like the people from the past Grace years. And like, that never really gets explored. Like, you could have had an opportunity for them to like create rules and a new society basically, and you can see how that kind of devolves or how people break those rules. And it just felt like such a missed opportunity. And so I'm DNFing it for now because it pissed me off. The last book I read, actually, let me get the dust jacket. The last book I read was Rabbit Moon. This is a story about a girl who lives in China. She is an American, and she ends up moving there when she drops out of college, and she ends up getting hit by a car and goes into a coma. And so her parents think that she lives in, I believe it's Beijing that they think she lives in, but she actually lives in Shanghai. Yeah. So she actually lives 800 miles away from where they thought she was living and teaching English. And so her parents go to China in order to try and figure out what happened and why she's there, where she said she was somewhere else. And they kind of learn what she was doing there. But at least that's how this was marketed, was like them discovering the secrets of their daughter's life. But in actuality, like, I don't know. They don't really figure out much. There's a chapter in the middle that is by Lindsay, their daughter's perspective, and it just tells you what happened. Like, it's not them discovering it. It's just the story gets told to you. And so I thought that was really strange, because I thought it was going to be like them piecing together what happened and seeing why she got hit by this car, but it's just told you in one of the chapters. I did like her perspective. I thought what she was doing was interesting, and kind of how her life kind of devolves into this, into the way that it did and kind of what happened. I thought that chapter was interesting because I don't like her parents. Her mom, Claire, is okay, but her dad, Aaron, is such a piece of shit. I hate reading from his perspective. So I'm kind of glad that we got this big chunk in the middle that was from Lindsay's perspective, because I thought she was the most interesting part of the story. In the end, I ended up giving this 3 stars. I thought it was pretty good. But boy, do I hate some of these characters. And I think that's what you're supposed to do. I think you're not supposed to like these characters because they kind of are racist. And like her father doesn't see China as like a good place, and it's not a good place for her to be. And these people aren't as good as Americans and things like that. We also had some interesting commentary on adoption, because Lindsay's parents ended up adopting her sister Grace, but they called it rescuing her from China. And so there was an interesting conversation about whether that's ethical, whether adoption itself is ethical. Like, are you rescuing someone, or are you taking them away from their birth parents and their home country and their culture? And so that was pretty interesting conversation. I liked that a lot. Actually, I'd probably give it 3.5 stars. I think it was better than I'm thinking. Turned my camera off and everything, and I forgot to tell you what I'm going to read next month. I'm a professional. I've been doing this for almost a year. I ended up buying 2 books recently that I kind of want to read because, heaven forbid, I read my backlist at all. The Adults by Allison Espach. She's the one that wrote Wedding People. Yes, she wrote Wedding People, which was one of my favorite books of last year. I think this was her debut novel. It's a story about a girl who is a teenager. She's exposed to the world of grown-ups, and there's a birthday party that is like a big elaborate party, and yeah, it just goes from there, I guess. This book, everybody and their dad has been reading. This is Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is a story about a guy who gets put into like a reality TV show in like the future, and he has to like try to survive. And I hear that there's a cat that's really cool. Yeah. And it's kind of video gamey, which I love video games. So I gotta read Sunrise on the Reaping. I've had it for a couple weeks, and I don't know, something about me can't bring myself to read it. I think because it's supposed to be sad. And I don't want to be sad. Bad enough reading Rabbit Moon. That thing was depressing. And then I have this, oh my god, this book that I got on sale that is X-23 Omnibus. Look at this. It's massive. I'm so excited about it because I love X-23 and I think she's such an interesting character. And it's just a whole bunch of her graphic novels put together. I lied. I thought this video was going to end with the number of books that I read, but I ended up devouring a book in 2 days. And so I have another one for you. I have this very cute edition of this book, Murder at Ghoul's Nest. And this is a cozy mystery that I got in the Once Upon a Book Club box. And it's just it's a book box where it gives you gifts, little gifts that correspond with what's happening in the story. And so in the story, it'll have like, open your gift at like page 57 or something like that. And so it's really cool. I like it a lot. It's a little expensive, which is why I only do it for a couple of months and then I cancel it. But this story is about a woman named Nora. She was a nun for like 30 years, I want to say, maybe 20 years. And then she ends up leaving in order to find a missing friend of hers. And it hints at the fact that maybe she left for other reasons as well. But it really doesn't explore that very much. And if you go on Goodreads, it says it's a Nora Breen Investigates #1. So I'm thinking this is probably going to end up being a series. But it's kind of a shame that they don't explore more about her religion, because you don't see a lot of main characters that are nuns or that are really religious or have fallen out with religion. I feel like that's not a topic that's explored very often. And so I wanted to know more about her, and I wanted to know more about why she ended up leaving this convent and why she wanted to go off and do something else. And it's just never explored, which kind of sucks. But she ends up leaving. She goes to this small town and stays in this like house that has a bunch of that rents out their rooms to different people. And she ends up meeting all the people that live there, and the terrible food, and the grumpy people versus the really nice people, and things like that, until one of them ends up being murdered. The cops think it's a suicide, but she's not convinced, and so she starts investigating. Basically, this book is just her going around interviewing people. There's not much else to it. It's just a lot of talking, and the character's really endearing. I really like them a lot. I was sad anytime any of them died. It was kind of a sweet book. There was a little bit of a plot twist that I really liked. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. I think it was pretty simple, and I liked that it was simple. Like, I didn't dislike it. And it's just like, if you like cozy mysteries, you'll probably like this one. It's not saying anything new. I think if it did delve deeper into the religion thing, it would have been more unique of a book. But it did what it came here to do. So I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was really good. Yeah, and that's it. Those are all the books that I read this month. I hopefully posted a vlog before this, but I kept forgetting to film an intro and an outro. So, yeah, I'll see you next month. Bye.